Lugosi Lullabies.
Like and subscribe for more stories.
The post office at the end of the lane. I first saw the post office on a night with no wind, the kind of night where the air clings close to your skin and every sound feels rehearsed. The sky was heavy, bloated with stars that didn't twinkle, just stared, pinholes in a velvet dome. I was walking back from nothing in particular, barefoot, holding my shoes because the gravel didn't bite anymore. It was too late for stores and too early for birdsong. It wasn't there the day before, or any other day I'd walked that way, which had been many. Just past the last flickering streetlight, where the road thinned into overgrown weeds, and the trees leaned in like they were gossiping. Nestled in their shadow, a squat brick building squatted, red faded to rust, chimneyless, no lights but one. A crooked metal sign swung above the door, and on it, in chipped white paint, post, no hours, no windows. A single door with a tarnished brass handle, and a red bulb glowing above it like a steady heartbeat. I wasn't frightened. It didn't feel wrong. It felt late. Not late like bedtime. Late like forgotten. Like a place that had missed its moment but stayed behind anyway, in case someone came looking. It felt familiar the way old dreams do, blurred at the edges but sticky. Inside, the air was dry and cool, with that paper and ink smell libraries always chase but never quite catch. Wooden pigeonholes lined every wall, stacked floor to ceiling, some crammed with yellowing envelopes, some empty, some filled with dust that swirled but never seemed to land. There was no clock, but it felt like time had stopped ticking somewhere behind the walls. There was no one inside, just a narrow counter, worn soft where arms had rested, and a small brass bell I didn't dare touch, and the letters, dozens of them, hundreds maybe, all handwritten, all unsealed, all addressed to names I didn't recognize at places that didn't exist. Some addresses were just descriptions. The boy in the attic with the blue shoes, or under the willow that remembers. The first one I opened said, "To the girl who talks to moths, your window is still open." The second, "Tell Mr. Calder his dog forgives him." The third was blank, but warm to the touch, like it remembered being held. I don't know why I started delivering them, or how I knew where to go, but the next night, and the one after that, I returned. Always after midnight, always barefoot. The door was never locked, the red light always on, and the letters were always waiting. I delivered the one about the moths first, left it on a third-story windowsill that hadn't been opened in years, its glass webbed with wing prints. A few nights later, I saw a woman standing there in a bathrobe, whispering to something just out of view. She looked peaceful in that distant way old photographs do. Each letter knew where it wanted to be. They tugged at me, warm in my pocket, guiding my feet through back alleys, over fences, across streets I didn't recognize but somehow remembered. Some were left in hollow tree trunks, some were slipped under doors. One I buried in the sand beneath a swing set just before dawn. Another I tied to a balloon and let drift up into the clouds, unsure what would happen. And after each one, something changed. Slight things. A cat that had never been friendly began to follow me at a distance. The woman at the laundromat began humming lullabies instead of muttering curses. A mural of a cat blinked once, just as I walked past. A street lamp that hadn't worked in a decade flickered on when I needed to see. A traffic light stayed green for 5 whole minutes, and no cars came. Some letters began to write themselves. I'd watch words appear in looping ink, curling like smoke across the page. To the boy who left through the mirror. To the one who forgot her own name. To the man who walks the same dream every night looking for the door. I didn't ask questions. That wasn't my job. I just walked, delivered. Watched the world ripple like a stone had been dropped in it. A soft undoing of silence. Things felt thinner. Like I was walking through paper, and sometimes if I stepped just right, It tore. I started to dream in letter fragments. I would wake with ink on my palms. Once, I found an envelope tucked into the hem of my coat, though I hadn't worn it in weeks. The post office had begun to follow me in small ways. The night the final letter appeared, the post office was colder, still dry, still smelling faintly of old glue and ink, but colder, like something had stepped out and taken the warmth with it. The letter was sitting alone on the counter, not tucked in a pigeonhole, not glowing or warm, just resting, plain and still, with my name written across the front in my own handwriting. It looked older than the others, like it had waited a long time. I didn't open it right away. I walked the perimeter twice, checked every shelf, every corner, but there were no other letters, no new ones waiting. Only this, only me. When I did open it, the message was simple. You were kind to the forgotten. That was all. I stood there for a long time, unsure what I was supposed to feel. Gratitude, dread, relief. But all I felt was tired. A kind of quiet tired that didn't hurt. Like I'd been holding something for too long and finally let it go. I left the post office for the last time that night. Didn't look back. Didn't need to. In the morning, the gravel stung my feet again. The streetlight didn't flicker. And when I walked past the trees at the end of the lane, there was nothing there at all. No red light, no crooked sign, just quiet, just morning. I slept well that day, and the next, and every night after. I don't dream anymore. I don't have to. The silence is enough.
Room 217. The motel looked like it had been sunburned too many times. Faded pink stucco curled at the edges, and the neon sign out front buzzed a tired red. Vista Palms, vacancy. It looked half abandoned, half waiting, like it knew I was coming before I did. I hadn't meant to stop. The road had been long and strangely empty, bordered by fields of broken telephone poles and shoulder-high grass that rippled like water when the wind rolled in. There hadn't been another car for miles. I'd started to wonder if the whole world had slipped away behind me. Then I saw the sign flicker in the dusk, and I turned in without really deciding to, gravel crackling beneath the tires like bones underfoot. The front desk was a glass booth with yellowed papers taped to the inside, and a bell no one came to ring. A key hung from a plastic hook, labeled 217 in peeling gold numbers. I didn't remember reaching for it, but it was in my hand by the time I stepped back into the night air. There was no receptionist, no clipboard, just that heavy brass key pressing into my palm like it had always belonged to me. The concrete path to the rooms was lined with dying succulents and moth-choked porch lights. The corridor smelled like dust and old rain, like something sealed in too long and forgotten. Doors lined up on either side, their brass numbers dulled by time and coated in a film of neglect. My room was at the very end. It didn't look different from the others, but I felt it before I saw it, that slight pressure in the air, like a held breath, like the motel itself was watching. Inside, the room was still, the kind of still that made sound feel out of place. Pale wallpaper with a forgettable pattern of vines or maybe cracks, a bed too neat, the sheets tucked with unnatural precision, a television with no cord, a rotary phone that didn't ring, a window that looked out onto nothing but more windows. I set my bag down and sat on the edge of the bed, the mattress barely shifting beneath me. There was a hum I couldn't place, not electric, not mechanical, just beneath hearing, like something old remembering its song. I turned on the lamp, but the bulb flickered out immediately. Still, the room remained softly lit, as if the light came from inside the walls. I fell asleep before I meant to. Or maybe I blinked. Maybe I never truly woke up at all. But when I opened my eyes again, the room had changed. The bedspread was the same pattern, but in green instead of beige. The painting above the bed was a woman instead of a tree. The air smelled faintly of lilacs, and outside, the dusk had not moved. Time had not moved. Only the room. Every time I fall asleep, I wake in the same room, but something has always shifted. The lamp clicks and hums now, casting shadows that stretch just a little too far. The painting on the wall, a woman in blue, sometimes has her eyes closed, sometimes open. Once, she was missing entirely. Her frame remained, but the canvas was blank, like her presence had been erased rather than moved. I've started taking notes, folding scraps of paper into the dresser drawer. Green bedspread, 2 chairs now, mirror cracks moved. But each morning, the notes are rewritten in handwriting that isn't mine, with phrases I half recognize. Not yet, wait your turn, keep still. Some of them are crossed out, some of them are circled in red. There is always a lullaby. Never sung aloud, but pressed into the air like warmth. It hums through the vents, through the carpet, through the skin. Sometimes I hum along without meaning to. The tune changes each night, but I feel like I once knew the words. Maybe I wrote them. Maybe they were written for me. Outside the window, the other rooms have lights that flicker on and off in strange patterns. I've never seen a single person. But last night, I caught a reflection in the screen. Someone sitting on the bed behind me, not moving. A silhouette that looked too much like me. When I turned, there was no one there, just the painting. And this time, the woman in blue was smiling. Her eyes were open. I don't think they had been before. Sometimes the carpet feels like it shifts beneath my feet, like it's breathing. Sometimes the mirror fogs up without steam. One morning, I woke up wearing someone else's shirt. Another, the clock ticked backwards for 3 full hours. But I've stopped questioning it. The routine has its rhythm now. It's easy to let go of the shape of days. I don't remember falling asleep, but I wake to find the door open. Not ajar, open wide, as if expecting me. The hallway beyond is different now, brighter, longer, lined with doors that never existed before. The walls breathe with a pulse, as if the building has veins. I walk past room 217, but the number is gone. In its place, a mirror, fogged and humming. My reflection doesn't follow me. It stays behind, sitting calmly on the bed, one hand lifted in farewell. The mirror vibrates gently, like it's remembering the shape of my name. There are no more notes, no more songs, just a final phrase scrawled across the wall in looping ink. Thank you for staying. It wasn't there before. It wasn't written by me. When I step outside, the sky is neither night nor day. The parking lot is empty. The neon sign is off. The air is warm and cool at once, like a fever dream. The world feels hushed. And though I walk for hours, I never grow tired. I don't need to sleep anymore. The road feels familiar, or maybe it always has, but room 217 is gone. I carry its silence with me.
The hollow library of names. The janitor didn't notice the new button until the 4th storm of the season. They had walked the library's marble corridors 100 times, keys swinging at their hip, the metallic jingle echoing faintly through the cavernous stillness. Footsteps were muffled by layers of dust and the hush that lives in buildings too old to remember how to speak. The walls bore the weight of generations of silence, but that night, the building breathed differently. The storm outside clawed at the stained glass windows with frantic fingers of rain. Thunder growled like a distant engine. The air was charged with static and the heavy scent of ozone, dust, and ancient ink. The elevator was a relic, a brass-gated cage with a cracked glass light above it, and a habit of sighing on arrival. It groaned open to reveal its tarnished interior, lined with brass buttons and velvet, too faded to name a color. It had always gone from the main floor to the top, 3 levels of stacks, archives, forgotten microfiche machines, and display cases of relics no one had looked at in decades. But this time, when the janitor pressed the call button, the panel flickered uncertainly, and something new appeared. -1, not B1, not a basement, just a negative number, a subtraction. They stared for a long moment. Perhaps it was a malfunction. Perhaps the building was finally giving up its last secrets. Perhaps they were simply curious in a way they hadn't been for years. Whatever the reason, their finger moved. They pressed it. The descent was noiseless. No grating of cables, no flickering lights, just a breathless sinking, as if the elevator were being lowered by thought alone. They felt no motion, but the air grew colder. The brass around them darkened, dulled. Something passed between moments. When the doors opened, there were no lights, no switches, no signage. Just a low, natural glow that seemed to rise from the floor itself, catching gently on the edges of things. Shelves rose from the shadows like bones, stretching far into the distance, arcing in directions the eye couldn't follow. The books were narrow and bound in leather of varying colors, most muted and faded. Each one pulsed faintly, not enough to read by, but enough to notice. The glow came from the names etched into the spines. Every spine bore a name. Some names the janitor recognized immediately: teachers, neighbors, the girl who disappeared from their high school hallway one spring and was never seen again. Others sparked memory like static, half remembered from dreams, from overheard conversations, from places never visited. Some names weren't names at all, but symbols that stirred emotion. They didn't speak. They only walked. The shelves spiraled impossibly, some leading to doors that opened into empty stairwells or bricked-over walls. Others terminated in mirrors too clouded to reflect. Some vanished into fog. The janitor's footsteps made no sound. Their breath felt suspended, stretched across something much older than silence. Eventually, they came to a round wooden table with a single chair. Both were covered in a fine layer of gray dust, untouched and undisturbed. Upon the table was one book, resting with deliberate weight. The name on its spine was familiar, but they could not say why. They sat. They reached out. They opened it, and they began to read. They returned the next night, and the night after that, and the night after that. It became habit, more certain than sleep. They would check the locks, empty the bins, and then vanish into the elevator that no one else seemed to notice. The library above remained unchanged. Cold fluorescent lights, creaking carts, catalog cards left to yellow. But below was different. The books were always there, and new ones appeared in unfamiliar sections. Some shelves were rearranged, new hallways emerged, dust vanished, cobwebs rewove themselves overnight. Each book held a life, not fiction, not memoir, not even memory, a life distilled. One man's story was written entirely in dialogue, all of it spoken to someone who never answered. Another belonged to a woman whose story paused at the moment her heart broke and never resumed. There were tiny moments the janitor recognized: a stone path in a park, a summer taste of watermelon and chlorine, a streetlight flickering 3 times before dying. But the people were strangers, until they weren't. The janitor began seeing them. It started with a woman in a red coat, standing beneath a broken neon sign, holding a newspaper too old to exist. Then a man on the subway, humming a lullaby that hadn't been sung in generations. They appeared in doorways, in reflections, in dreams. Some of them looked up when the janitor passed, some smiled, some followed. The city changed, not all at once, but in ways that made it feel less anchored. Buildings turned slightly between visits. Stores carried items the janitor knew had never been made. At the bus stop, a familiar tune played from an unseen radio. A mural appeared overnight, and then changed every time it was looked at. The janitor read more. They began to whisper the names aloud. One name tasted like metal and snow. The next morning, a boy with frostbitten ears sold flowers on the library steps. Another name made their throat ache. That night, they dreamed of a stranger sobbing against their shoulder. They learned to choose carefully, the lonely ones, the lost ones, the ones whose stories asked to be finished. And still, the city shimmered. People spoke slower. Dogs barked at empty corners. Reflections lagged behind the living. Radios played voices no one remembered recording. One night, the janitor stood at their mirror and watched themselves raise their hand a full second after they had done so. Something was watching back. Then, one night, there was only one book left. It did not glow. It did not hum. It simply was. The name on the spine was theirs. They held it without meaning to. The leather felt warm, familiar. There was no dust. They sat in the same chair. The table was clearer now, as though the dust had never been there. They opened the book. What they found was not a retelling, but a remembering. It began before their birth. The hope in their mother's hands, the quiet guilt in their father's silences. Their childhood appeared in fragments. The time they hid under the piano during a thunderstorm, the lost glove found months later beneath the steps, a letter they never sent, a kindness they never mentioned, a sorrow they never shared. The pages fluttered forward. Their nights in the library were already written, word for word, until the last page, a single sentence ending with a comma. They closed the book. Around them, the shelves sighed. Books dimmed one by one. The glow folded inward like dusk drawn through a sieve. The air turned thick. The table and chair blurred. The ground beneath them pulsed, not with light, but with memory. They stood. The elevator was waiting. This time, the ascent was felt. The ache of leaving something behind. The tug of being remembered by something ancient and vast. The doors opened. Morning, sunlight spilled like warm milk across the marble floors. The stained glass windows caught fire with gold. Birds called to one another from somewhere unseen. Their keys were gone, their nameplate removed, their locker empty, their apartment forgotten by records. Faces that once nodded in passing now slid over them like fog over stone. No one remembered the janitor. But something had shifted. A warmth threaded through the city like steam through old pipes. Neighbors paused to ask each other's names. Strangers held doors longer than they needed to. A record played a song that had no title, but everyone hummed along. A child waved at nothing, laughed, said, "They told me it's okay now." The janitor walked unseen. Not ghost, not absence. Something older, something softer. And somewhere far below, sealed in quiet and waiting, the hollow library closed its doors once more. And the world just slightly began to remember how to dream.